How's it going, guys? My name is Falling Hurts, and once again, I'm making another video on the day before. And you may be thinking, why are you giving this game any, credence or anything like that? It's just like Abandoned, and I'm just fascinated. Quite frankly, at this point, I'm fascinated. I held out hope for a long time that there's something to this game, and I'm still not convinced that it's vaporware or not real, but I'm just so baffled. I'm confused by this whole situation. So basically, me making this video comes off of the fact that yesterday, or at the time of recording, this was yesterday, who knows when this video is actually going to make it out because I'm busy, the developers for the game, Fntastic, as well as the actual Twitter account for the day before, started sharing a few different, images as well as some promotional stuff for a new teaser trailer, and of course, there was also an exclusive interview with Well Played. And we're going to get into all of that today, as well as kind of catching you up on any information you may have missed on this channel. Since the last video, I usually kind of go pretty in-depth with this, but I'll make sure, for the sake of everything in this video, you know everything you need to know. So with that being said, let's hop right in. And I think the best place to start, of course, I'll have trailers for the game playing in the background, and if you are interested in any of the previous day before videos, they're on my channel. But with this one, it's coming from Zach Jackson, and he talks about a lot of different things that are pretty interesting. But if you want to actually read the interview for yourself, all quotes, everything, I recommend going and checking out that on your own. I'll have that linked in the description. But going with some of the questions that I thought were pretty interesting, I think the one that most people are probably concerned about is that Well Played asked, are you able to give any updates to the game's legal situation and when it will return to Steam? And is there any chance that you'll change the name? Now, if you don't understand any of this or don't know anything about this, I actually didn't make a video on this at the time. But back in January, when the game was supposedly only a few months out at that point in time, there was a delay to the game for November 10th, 2023. And while Fntastic stated that there was always going to be a delay for the game, they stated that one of the main issues that were, blocking any of their, marketing push with a new gameplay trailer or anything like that was because the game was blocked from Steam and later on from YouTube as well. And this was due to their words, a private individual who was claiming that they had the rights to the name the day before. And pretty much that's all we've heard since, other than the fact that Mytoma and Fntastic, the publisher and developers, have both been steadfast in the idea that this will be resolved, that they have the rights to it, and they stand by the fact that justice will be revealed, as they say. Basically, that's all that was answered with this question as well. The only quote that I'm really pulling from this of any interest is that they want to reassure the community that the Steam page will be reinstated soon, and that they'll be back at the top of the wish list. I'm really not so sure about that, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. The next question that I thought was actually pretty interesting was they said that the day before is easily the biggest game that Fntastic has ever worked on. Previously, they released Prop Hunt, which is like a multiplayer horror asymmetrical type game, which was rather recent. And then, of course, The Wild 8, a survival game. It's pretty apparent that the day before, if it delivers on everything it says, will be their biggest game. But Well Played continues on asking, are they confident that they can deliver their vision for the game, and what has the studio done to be able to develop a game of this scale? They, of course, take the question as anyone would, and they say that it's been a big challenge, and they've been super ambitious with it, and it's incredibly exciting for them to work on it. They also, of course, shore up that they're confident in their abilities to realize the vision of the game, thanks to the unique blend of the team's hunger, the work culture, and the publisher Mytona. And once again, that is something that I do want to make note of. As opposed to Abandoned, a game that this has been compared to quite a bit, I do think there's a lot more credence to the day before being a real game. Whether or not it's going to end up being a dud, I'm not sure, but I really do stand by the fact that there is a real game here. Whether or not it's anywhere near being done or to the goal of what people have in their minds, I'm not sure. But I think it's interesting that they stand by the fact that they're going to hold on to the vision of the game. And then there was actually a question about use of volunteer work, which is a really interesting thing to talk about. But for the sake of this video, I don't think it's that relevant, and I think if you really want to know all the details about that, this is my reason to push you towards that article. So if you do want a video on that kind of stuff in the future, let me know if this was the wrong call, but I'm trying to make it to where I'm not repeating everything from the interview. But of course, probably the most interesting question of all, are you able to share some of the details of how the core gameplay will work? Will there be story missions, objectives like The Division, or will players simply venture out into the open world like a lot of survival games? Have you even made the decision on how many players will populate the server? And of course, Fantastic's answer was pretty straightforward. The Day Before is, of course, an open world post-apocalyptic sandbox where players will have the opportunity to fully immerse themselves in a new world exploring a huge skyscraper city called New Fortune City. I think that's a new reveal, I'm not sure. You can purchase houses, vehicles, all while creating unique personal narratives along the way. To me, that strikes as more, hey, I got in a shootout with a couple other players today. That's a unique story. That's the kind of gameplay stories that I'm expecting. And they say just as much that as they predominantly lean towards player versus player engagement, but they do say that there will be quests incorporated centered around the restoration of society, which was, in my opinion, pretty apparent from some of the earlier interviews where they talk about how there is a settlement that you will be able to get some quests from. And it kind of seems like a, all hands off player hub, if you will. And it seems that they haven't currently completely locked in player population per server at this stage. And this really does seem like something that they could just tweak based off of, performance of the server, whether that be lag or anything like that. So I'm not too worried about the fact that they don't have that number nailed down per se. That's actually pretty reasonable of something to admit. But they do say that they are committed to striking the perfect balance between dynamic, populated world and the optimal gameplay performance. So hopefully they will strike that proper balance. The next question, which was something that I believe was already kind of answered in the past, so it's kind of retreading old grounds, but I feel it's important to cover to anyone watching this video now. And they basically ask, will there be various types of enemies and zombies throughout the game, and maybe even some that are more difficult to take down? And once again, Fantastic states that it will be within the boundaries of realism. We designed various types of infected to add to the complexity and the thrill of the game. However, it's essential to note that the core focus of the game isn't solely on zombies. Instead, the heart of the game lies within the interactions and experiences of the players themselves as they navigate and inhabit the post-apocalyptic world. So once again, a huge emphasis on PvP in this game. Seems like if that's not something you're going to be into, and they don't have servers that are going to support PvE, maybe this might not be your game. Reeling back away from that though, Well Played once again asks about that survivor colony that I mentioned, stating that this is where players can come together, relax, trade items, and give each other tasks. And as I've already stated, Fantastic says this is a safe zone where players can interact, form alliances, engage in trade, and undertake quests aimed at societal restoration. And they also reveal that a new feature that they've added to the game is for the ability of the players to seek employment within the Woodbury colony. These in-game jobs range across various professions from manual labor as a loader to showcasing artistic talent as a musician. These jobs will add another layer of realism and immersion to the game. They go on to say, beyond these activities, we've also introduced immersive relaxation elements to enrich the player's experience. As previously showcased, we offer a sauna where players can unwind and enjoy memorable interactions with other players. And additionally, they can hang out in the bar for their casual conversations or hit the gym to work on their in-game fitness. These features add to the depth of our game world, reinforcing the sense of a lived-in, vibrant community even amidst the post-apocalyptic setting. And I have to say that of everything in this interview, this has been the one that backs up everything that I've thought the most, and that's really that there needs to be a sense of camaraderie or sense of spirit within the world, or else it's just going to be any other zombie survival game. Let me know what you think about that, but I really do enjoy the idea that there's things that you can do that aren't strictly combat or collecting items to take to a quest giver. Another aspect of the game that Well Played, kind of prodded about was that the game has base building, as has already been shown off in some trailers, and they asked if the bases will be a safe haven for the players, or if other players can attack them and raid them, much like a game like Rust. Fantastic goes on to say that a key feature of our game will be the ability for players to purchase their own in-game houses. These properties can be completely personalized, furnished to reflect the owner's taste, and serve as a gathering point for friends within the game. Importantly, these homes will offer respite from the surrounding chaos. These are designed to be safe havens, immune to player attacks. In essence, these are players' personal sanctuaries within the game world. So once again, another place outside of Woodbury that is a safe place. I do like that. I just hope that I just hope that it's not something that a player can sit outside and just grief someone as they walk out their front door. I hope there's like a safe zone, maybe slightly around it, but we'll have to wait and see. And finally, rounding out the last couple questions, one thing that was mentioned in a previous trailer was the Azure Initiative. And of course, Well Played prods once again to ask a little bit more about that as to what that is. Fantastic insists that it is an integral part of the game's universe. Azure is responsible for the operation of the city's electricity in the aftermath of the post-apocalyptic environment, which showcases their pervasive influence. This megacorporation has infiltrated every aspect of daily life and monopolized numerous sectors. And while they mostly talk about how this is just an allegory for, the mega rich and the mega corporations and how, there's the little downtrodden guy and it's just some big political statement or whatever, what I really want to focus on here is that previously this was kind of alluded to that the Azure stations or the initiative bases or whatever would be kind of almost like an in-game raid in like any other MMO, if you know what I mean. So while they don't specifically talk about that here, think of it as the fact that this is a story-based raid, if there is one, and I think that could be really interesting. And then after that, Well Played manages to get one more very crucial question in there. Basically, they're like, hey, November 10th, the planned release date as of January, is coming up kind of quick, and we haven't really heard too much new about the game. Is it going to still launch on PC and consoles at that date? And if not, is there any indication when you will be aiming to bring the game to consoles? This line of questioning, of course, comes from the fact that there were some images and then a video that eventually did confirm that there would be a console release of the game. But while Fantastic did confirm that November 10th is still the planned release date for PC, there is not quite a release date for consoles just yet. They will be following later. They did say that immediately following the release, they will be sharing a roadmap of forthcoming updates to keep our players engaged and excited. The roadmap would include new features, content additions, which would emphasize their commitment to the continuous development of the game. And while the PC platform is still the focus right now, the console versions would be next in line, and a release date for them would be announced pretty soon after the PC launch. And while the game isn't early access, they do plan on having a closed beta prior to the game's actual launch in November. Whether or not the beta actually will be, pretty soon before or a month before, we're not really sure. They haven't disclosed that, but, just be looking out for Steam. They have this little nice sign-up thing now. Whenever that game does return to Steam, hopefully you'll be able to sign up. And that is absolutely everything from that interview that I thought was relevant to what players are going to want to know about the game itself. As I said, it's very important that you check out that interview if you want to know more about the output of the studio and its culture. I think that's really interesting. But the only other bit of information we really need to cover today is there was a new teaser trailer posted, which did not go over well with fans, I have to say. And while the trailer is probably played a couple times throughout the course of this video by this point, it's really just, it's showing a very fast Lamborghini driving around the city. And as Stephen Ford pointed out on Twitter, it's quite literally just the opening of I Am Legend, which is something that Fantastic has been criticized before in mirroring other media, whether it be Call of Duty in one of the trailers in one quick section, or anything like that. It's really interesting. One thing that Fantastic has done is they've worn their inspirations on their sleeves, but they haven't mentioned these ones. So, I do give some credence to the idea, what's going on with this game? Pay attention to stuff like this. Seriously. But with that being said, that's it for this video. If this was at all engaging or, informative, please consider liking, subscribing, doing all that fun stuff. I don't always go this in-depth with a game, but this game's just really interesting to me. And if it is for you too, whether you want it or don't want it, I think everybody wants the game, but I don't know if everybody thinks the games exist. So with that being said, my name is Falling Hurts. Thank you so much for watching this video, and goodbye.